Fine, the Ilum already got involved in Basi Legani, yeah? Were you holding which sugya? Chayes Havos, Karnei Re'emim, Be'ekinim, Yosef, Yedua, Yedea. Where's the? Fine. We had some Lendovat in different shredding about the Basi Legani, Chlal, and the Basi Legani of the year.
I'm personally stuck on all this Zara stuff in Ice Hay. That's where I'm stuck.
Ice Hay, what? What's in Ice Hay involved?
The top of the...
Shoil? You're stuck in Shoil? In Erderein, huh? That's hay. What's involved? I think the Drosh Gimel Shittas.
It's Ice Hay at the top of the...
Yeah. Page Chav Gimel, yeah? So
Cyrus. Okay. It sounded a little strange.
You're saying until there you're fine. That's where you got a bit stuck. Okay.
What's the hardest?
Okay, so I'll speak a bit about what's going on here in the Mamer, but I get to the Mamer himself, the Mamer itself. So it's a lot of parts of the Mamer. It's a gate. It's very gishmak. If someone wants shiurim on the Mamer itself, you could hear Basi Greenbaum shiurim, hear Eilis and Netzuris about the shiurim. So I'll give myself the luxury of a shtickle floating around on Reidin Arum and certain Kudus be Madgish. The emphasis I want to speak about a few things, but Baruch Hashem Mamish a few hours ago, I was able to see the Hanacha from the Shabbos Mamer, which parts of it, parts of it are in the Haaretz here in the Mamer, but parts were never printed. Hopefully we printed for this year. And there's a new, according to that Mamer, there's a new vart, a new nekuda in the sugi of Habas v'chayos that gives not just a deeper havana in that sif itself, but in the mahalach of the Mamer. So I'll spend some time on that. Before that, okay, so Betzim, this Mamer Basi Legani, it's Tafshuch of Daled is Be'etzim on Sif Yudaled. Sif Yudaled is a hemshech to Yud Beis and Yud Gimel, right? From Sif Yud Beis, we start speaking about Oirin Tzoif, L'mayla adin Keitz, or L'mata adin Tachlis. And as the Rebbe is Madgish B'kama Mamorim, that even though the Lashon is L'mayla adin Keitz, L'mata adin Tachlis, first L'mayla adin Keitz, and then L'mata adin Tachlis, in the Mamorim, first we explain, Be'etzim over 3 Sifim, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yudaled, we explain what's the vart of L'mata adin Tachlis, and then Sif Tesvav, we explain L'mayla adin Keitz. And then afterwards, Tezayin, Yud Zayin, we go Tifer, Koidem at Tzimtzum. As the Rebbe explains in later Mamarim, that what goes on in the next Mamer, because Basi Legani, each Mamer is 5 prakim. So this is the third Mamer. This is the Mamer that came out for Purim. The first 2 Mamarim, Basi Legani and Yeshivas Begani, came out for Yud Gimel Shvat, came out together. That Betzim came out before the Istalkos. The first Mamer that came out after the Istalkos is this Mamer, the third Mamer. Because it's after the Istalkos, there's no Dibra Maskil, because the Friedrich Rebbe wasn't Asher Dibra Maskil. So this Mamer is Yud Aleph Yud Beis Yud Gimel Yudal Tezvav. But then weiter, the Rebbe explains that from Tezayin and on, we go to Noch Tifer, Noch Echer Kedem at Tzimtzum. What's L'mayla adin Keitz and L'mata adin Tachlis there? And then Yud Zayin, he sort of finally comes to the Achra, where he's trying to get to. Where is he trying to get to? So Betzim, from Yud Beis, Gimel, Yud Aleph, Tezvav, Tezayin, and somewhat halfway through Yud Zayin, we're speaking about L'mayla adin Keitz, L'mata adin Tachlis. So it's great stuff. It's great Haskalah. It's Geshmak Chassidus. We're in the middle of the Gedichte, Tife, Oisis of Basi Legani. What's it doing there? Right? What's it all about? It's there because in Sif Yud Aleph we start speaking about the Oitzer. The Eivishter gives us an Oitzer. The Eivishter gives an Oitzer to the Anshe Chayil, which starts speaking about in Sif Yud, the Anshe Tzava. In the army there's from the Melech and down, and there's the Sarim, the Pekidei Chayil, and this in the Maimar this year he speaks about the Dilas Tun and the Chsizim Mulchama. People have to figure it all out, especially in the Tzidkesh B'Zaynai. But then there's the Anshe Chayil, the foot soldiers, that actually, they're the ones that have to go out there and fight the battle. In order for them to fight the battle and win the battle, we give them an oitzer. So the emphasis here itself, in the Mamorim, this is something that goes back and forth between the different Basi Legani Mamorim, what precedes what and what brings about what? Is the oitzer given to us Mumayla, and that gives us the koyah for Mesiras Nefesh and go out and win the battle? Or we are ma'oider our Mesiras Nefesh. which sometimes this is called our own oitzer, right? It's brought in the Mamer here as well. Our oitzer bifnim. And that brings mida keneged mida, the oitzer milmaila. So we start the initial sort of chodesh al machat. We are mo'ir our mesiras nefesh. We receive the oitzer milmaila in order to go out and win the battle. And then there's a third oifin that we go, we fight, we win the battle, and as schar, we receive the oitzer. As schar, we receive the oitzer. So the oitzer comes after the battle and after the victory. Right? Got confused yet? Great. Okay, so the emes says that there are different oifanim, and in the Mamarim, these different oifanim are brought. And in the Mamarim, on the later prakim, if Yudches, Yutes, Chav, that would mean Tavshin Chav Ches, Chav Tes, Lamid, which those are the last Mamarim of the first cycle of the 20 years. So in those Mamarim, which they're all Mugeh, because they were Mugeh the second round, Tavshin Ches, Tes, Nun. So there, the Rebbe, in the Mugeh, in the Pnim, and especially in the Aris, the Rebbe starts creating this tivuch, which that itself, in different Mamarim, different Ifanim, of how these things work together. And sort of there's different stages in the Oitzer. There's the Oitzer we receive before, there's the Oitzer we receive after, there's different dargis in the Oitzer. I'm not just mentioning this Derech Agav, it's going to be negil to what's going on in our Mamer as well. So, in order to understand what the Oitzer is, L'havin, the meaning of the Oitzer starts if Yud Beis. What is this Oitzer? What is this great Oitzer that the Eibishter gives us to win the battle, to help us win the battle? So, Makdim state, now what's he trying to do with that? So here's very interesting. Probably most of us learned the Mamer Tavshin Chav Gimel, Tavshin Chav Beis, the last few years. So if you remember the Mamer Basi Legani of Chav Beis and Chav Gimel, so the Rebbe says very clearly there that why are we starting? That first of all, what is the Mamer trying to do? Why are we bringing us this whole Arichas? That's number one, and number two. Why does the Frierdiker Rebbe switch from the order of what's lost from Tikkun Zeir? The Lamayla indicates Lamat Ani Tachlis. The Frierdiker Rebbe first over 3 sifim explains Lamat Ani Tachlis and then explains Lamayla Ani Kates. And the Nekuda is because we want to explain to us the haflah of the Oitzer, how amazing the Oitzer is. What's the Oitzer? Lamayla Ani Kates. So to understand the haflah of the Oitzer Lamayla Ani Kates, first we explain Lamat Ani Tachlis, and that's 3 sifim that really give us. A run for our money to really understand. Once we learn the Mamer, Chav Beis, Chav Gimel, Chav Daled, and understand the haflah of Lamata Adin Tachlis, we say all that haflah, the oitzer, which is Lamayla Adin Kates, is greater than. That's the oitzer that we have. This is the way that Rebbe explains it in the beginning of Chav Beis, in the beginning of Chav Gimel, if you remember from last year. But here in Chav Daled, the Rebbe comes already in the beginning of the Mamer and throws a bomb. That's l'chayra yoytzim min haklal. And just a moment about the beginning of the Mayan. So the beginning of Ma'amarims, in this case, in the Anacha here, it's Sif Aleph, that's in, right, the whole Sif Aleph. So we know this style in the Basi Legani is that the first few minutes, usually 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on the year, the Rebbe does a sikkum. Fine, nice sikkum. Some years it's a smaller sikkum, some years it's a longer sikkum, and the Rebbe, for some reason, will in the middle of, this is a Sif Yudalid, and the Rebbe, okay, Sif Aleph always will get a nice amount, because we have to speak about Basi Legani, and the Yerid L'Shchina Lamata, the 7 Doiris, but then all of a sudden, sometimes the Rebbe will sit for a minute, or even more, on Sif Beis, or a vart from Sif Gimel, or later Sifim, the Tzava, and the it's like what's the vart? But very often, when you learn the Mamer, you see that the sikkum in the beginning, it's not just a nice sikkum. It's not just a nice sikkum. The Rebbe is madgish certain inyan. Number one, the hadgashos. Number two, the shinuyim. The Rebbe brings the vart differently. He's madgish it. This sif, the way it's brought in its year, if it's sif beis, the way the Rebbe explained the tafshin beis, very clear in one life. And here the Rebbe says it in a few words, aber mit andere hadgasha. And very often you see how it feeds into and connects to the toichin later on in our Mamer that's going to get to this year. So there's kind of a common inyanim. I'm not going to get to all the inyanim here. I think once you look with that perspective, there's a few inyanim you'll see here. Especially when you hear the Rebbe saying it, you see the Rebbe being madgish in a certain way. But one of the inyanim that you see over here is that the Rebbe explains what is the oitzer. Right, so there's what we have in the Pnim, there's what we have in the Aris Ambadim. The Aris Ambadim are from the Mamorim of Friday night and Shabbos day. So the truth is, in the beginning of the Mamer, the Rebbe says it, but I don't know if you could say the Rebbe says it as the ganze Toikif and the ganze Klorkeit. But by the end of the Mamer, it's Mamish Klorazai. The Rebbe says that the Oitzer is higher than Oyer. When we say higher than Oyer, we mean in all parts of it. In other words, the Lamata Adin Tachlis and Lamayla Adin Ket. So not only the Oitzer is higher than Lamata Adin Tachlis, which is what we said the last 2 years, it's higher than Lamayla Adin Ket as well, because that's also a gather in Oyer. Oyer Ein Soif is Lamayla Adin Ket, so Lamayla Adin Ket is also included in there. So, fine. So you can say Nisa'at the higher darga. What's interesting is you look at the following Mamer in the next few years, which is on the coming Sifim, Tavshin Chafei, Tavshin Chavav, Tavshin Chav Zayin. The Rebbe goes back to the same narrative, to the same vart of Tavshin Chav Beis, Tavshin Chav Gimel. That what is the Oitzer? The Oitzer is Lamayla Adin and we start with Lamayla Adin Tachlis to say Lamayla Adin Tachlis is great, it's amazing. Lamayla Adin is not Hecher, and that's the Oitzer. Okay, so first of all, what does it say? What does it say in the Maimon? What does the Friedrich Rebbe say? Does he say what the Eitzer is? So you look in Sif Yud Zayin. It's not here in the case because this is just this Maimer, but that's in Sif Yud Zayin of the Maimer. So Be'etzem, when he speaks about L'mayla Adin Kates, which is called Etzem Ha'oyer. L'mat Adin Tachlis is Ispashtus Ha'oyer. L'mayla Adin Kates is Etzem Ha'oyer. And there he says very clearly that Etzem Ha'oyer, and this is the Oitzer. He's speaking about L'mayla Adin Kates, Etzem Ha'oyer, and he says, and that's the Oitzer. Elamai. A line later, he says, the Hamshich the Oitzer, and the Oitzer is Atzmus. I don't know Lashon is Atzmus Ein So. I don't know the exact Lashon. You can look at it. Is it the whole Basi Legani here? This is the Sefer Mamer. Right, so the Lashon there is Sif Yud Zayin. Yeah, well, who koi? There's Malkolm and Seiv Kalam, but then there's Etzem Ha'oyer, which is not begeder Gilui and Hamshach in the Oilemis. It's Misalim the Miskalu Batzmosei, which that's the Pshat Lamayla Adin Kates, that it's totally Misalim. And he says Ubchinu Madrega Zu Hiani Kras M'Shem Oitzer. This is the Oitzer. Fine, L'chayra case closed right there. That's what the Oitzer is. The Oitzer is Etzem Ha'oyer. But he continues. Tikashem Sheha Oitzer Hareyu Sasum V'Nelo Me'en Kol Roya Kein B'chinas Ha'atzmos Harei Sasum V'Nelom V'les Machshava Tfisa Be'Klal V'hu B'chinas Ha'atzmos Yisbarich De'ayin Lo'irasi. The next one. He continues and says, okay, we just said that Etzem Ha'oyer, that is the Oitzer. And he says, and then he brings, what's the Oitzer? Oitzer, just like the Oitzer down here, a treasure, the Gashmis. No one sees it. Atzmos isn't seen. Yeah, but we're talking about Etzem Ha'oyer. So here's where the two Oifanim come about. So we see one line after another, we see that it's Etzem Ha'oyer, and then right away he then moves to Atzmos. So that's why we have in the Mamorim. That's why we have in the Mamorim. In some Mamorim, and this is the dominating word in the Mamorim of the Chafs. That means the Mamorim that go through these Seifim of the L'mayla Adin Kates Matan Tachlis. Boifin Klali, this is the word that L'mayla Adin Kates, that's the Oitzer. But then in Chav Daled, the Rebbe jumps to Atzmos. In other words, Etzem Ha'oyer is also included within its Oyer, and Oitzer has to be higher than Oyer. Later, after this Sif Yud Zayin, I mean, some Tavshin Chav Ches, Chav Tes, Lamid, the year that Rebbe already started, and then weiter in the second cycle, the year that Rebbe already started speaking more about this Inyan of the Oitzer being Atzmos. But in the first cycle, and in these Prakim, it's Etzem Ha'oyer. Besides for Chav Dal, it's like a Oisnam Ha'oyer. So that itself, it's Omer Darsheni. In other words, why Rosafin gain, but it go out of the lane. Now, the interesting thing is, in the other Mamarim, there's Chav Beis, Chav Gimel, and right there, like I said, Chav Hei, Chav Vav, Chav Zayin. So, the Rebbe, in a few of the Mamarim, asks this question, or brings up this Nekuda, that why does the Friedrich Rebbe change the order from L'mayla Adin Kates, L'mayla Adin Tachlis, and start with L'mayla Adin Tachlis for 3 Prakim, and then go to L'mayla Adin Kates? And the vert is because Lo Yizu Avzu, right? In other words, we're not speaking about the Oitzer. The Oitzer is Etzem Ha'oyer. L'mayla Adin Kates. So first we speak about Ispashtus, or L'mayla Adin Tachlis, how amazing that is, and now we get to the Oitzer. Now, in our Mamer, we're not saying that we're trying to get to etzem or we're trying to get tiffer to atzmos, right? So here, so the Rebbe goes weiter, right? So you have this betzim in the pnim, towards the end of Sif Aleph here, and also in Oy Zayin. Where the Rebbe says, where's the Oy Zayin brought? It's the middle of the page, right? Right, so in the Pnim he says, we start explaining Lamata Adin Tachlis, and from Lamata Adin Tachlis we go to Lamayla Adin Ketz. Right, that's the order. So in the Ara he brings the same Vart from the halfway through the Ara of Ara Zayin, that once you understand the Ilu Lamata Adin Tachlis, we'll understand the Maila of Maila Adin Ketz. Right, but in our mind, we're not just trying to get to Maila Adin Ketz, we're trying to get higher. So he goes on and says, so it's mamish, Lamata Adin Tachlis, Lamayla Adin Ketz, Oitzer. What's interesting here is that here the Rebbe adds a vart that I think in all of the Mamorim is not brought. And what's the vart? The first vart that Rebbe says here is the first reason. It's interesting. So a lot of these ha'aris, it comes from, most of them come from Rabbi Yale's ha'aris. Rabbi Yale after Shabbos wrote down, well, for himself, I guess he figured that Motzi Shabbos, the Mamer, even if it's not written down now, it's on tape, so people will have on. But no one's going to remember Friday night and Shabbos. So he wrote down a bunch of ha'aris. Each ha'aris starts either with the Aleph or Beis. Aleph if it comes from Friday night Mamer, and Beis if it comes from the Shabbos Mamer. Adding points. And when they wrote the Mamer, so sort of figure out where each keta goes. So here he wrote on this vart. So it was like in the Segrayim over here, he writes, Hisafe. This word is Hisafe. And the Hisafe is that why do we start with Lamata Adin Tachlis? Because it's Negeya, it's more Negeya Ta'avodah. Right? There's no one's worry. It's more Negeya Ta'avodah. Pashas, what's the word that's more Negeya Ta'avodah? Pashas, you passed this, you already went through this word. How do you understand? What's that's more Negeya Ta'avodah? There's no wrong answer. Yeah, I'm guessing like you. What's word lamata? But what's the avodah? In other words, what's the avodah of Mata Adin Tachlis, and what's the avodah of Lamayla Adin Ketz? No.
The avodah of Mata Adin Tachlis, or like means going.
Why is it more to get avodah?
Even in the lowest parts of your life, you're still there.
Right, but do you know what Lamayla Adin Ketz is? Lamayla Adin Ketz, as we'll learn in the next sifim, the next years, Lamayla Adin Ketz is the tzimtzum. Lamayla Adin Ketz is the choshech down here. If you're talking about choshech, Lamayla Adin Ketz is the source of a lot more choshech here. Right? But to use what you're saying in a bit under Asius, Lamata Adin Tachlis is saying how the Eir in Soif is down here to find the Shechina in this world, have Gilui Likus in this world. Right, so the emphasis, let's say, here in Chav Daled, it speaks about the Gilui Likus as sort of, this is the reality. There's a Gilui Likus here. In Mem Daled, we'll get there a bit later, in Mem Daled, the Rebbe speaks about the Lamata Adin Tachlis, the Eir in Soif being here as an in of Avodah. Through our Avodah, we can Gilui Likus in this world. But that's the Lamata Adin Tachlis. The Gilui is through our Avodah. In Chav Daled, it doesn't really go there. In Mem Daled, he speaks about the Nekudah that our Avodah, we have the ability to Gilui Likus down here. What's Lamayla Adin Ketz? Lamayla Adin Ketz speaks about how the Eibishter is so nisalim b'atzmusei, one of the words of Hey or Chavav. So the Rebbe says that Lamayla Adin Ketz. What's Lamayla Adin Ketz? The current Zogin, when we're speaking about Lamayla Adin Ketz, where's Eir in Soif? Where's the Mokum of Eir in Soif? Okay, the Matzimtzum. So when you say Lamata Adin Tachlis, you're saying that Ki'ilu it's B'keya that Tzimtzum, and it comes to us after Lachar Tzimtzum. But when you say Lamayla Adin Ketz, where's it going? It's a gate. It's already Tzimtzum. So where's it going? There's nowhere where to go up. From pre-Tzimtzum, it's going to right. Start in Zogin as Vos Dipshat Lamayla Adin Ketz Misalem Niskala Batzmus. That's the pshat. This alms, so that the Eibishter is able to be Mailam himself, and when he's Mailam himself, what that brings about is the Tzimtzum, the Koyach HaGvul, the Tzimtzum, the lack of Gilui Likus. So, in a way, Or this that the Tikkun Zohar brings L'mayla Adin Ketz before L'mayla Adin Tachlis is not only it's bedafka because first it was L'mayla Adin Ketz. First the Eibishter was mitzamtzim himself. Now we have post tzimtzum. There's Helen comes L'mayla Adin Tachlis, and we say that even after the tzimtzum in the matzah of Helen there's Gilui Likos. How do you say L'mayla Adin Tachlis before L'mayla Adin Ketz? Before the tzimtzum, how's it L'mayla Adin Tachlis? There's no matzah, right? In other words, the shaila, why the Friedrich Rebbe changes the order is not just why he's changing the order from the Zohar. It's l'chayr. That's taka the process. First was the gilui of the L'mayla Adin Ketz, was the gilui of the Kiyach Gvul, and then the bli Gvul we said gate durch the tzimtzum, and it's present here even in Olam Hazeh, and it's able to be nizgala here. But the vart is the first one. So that the first vart is that we said other years as well. The vart is the hafla because L'mayla Adin Ketz is much tifer than the Mat Adin Tachlis. But another part is Negei L'Avodah, right? Negei L'Avodah, because L'mayla Adin Ketz is the Helen. The Avodah is Gilui Likos. To find the Eibishter here. Atzia Shoel, Hineka. The lashon of this mind.
In the Sophia Yadal, he says,
In his Sofa? In the Vart Yadal, yeah. Gam Vidas Adam. Yeah, very good. It's have the Avodah. Yeah, very good. Yes, Matzah, give message Shemaim Shemot. Yeah, Matzah, the Shir Shoel Hineka. So here he takes L'mayla Adin Ketz. He takes it in a bit of a different place in the way the Chalal Mavur in the Yizman L'mayla Adin Ketz. Yeah, so L'mayla Adin Tachlis, you have the Avodah. It's Shir Shoel Hineka.
What's the difference?
Oh, what?
L'mayla Adin Ketz and Atzik Shemaim.
Oh, you're saying L'chayra Ibazei. You're saying, so you're asking. If here we see that L'mayla Adin Ketz also exists in even of Avodah. So both are Negei Avodah. So that's you're asking. Or you're saying. Once you point out, the effects of the Shiloh. The feel is Yudalid. So there's also an avoid of L'mayla Adin Ketz. So if you can come and say that what's more Negeya to Aveda? Where's there more people hanging out? Where's the more Negeya?
What is the Aveda of Esek Shemaim?
Mesek Shemaim is the unit of a pull of Esek Shemaim. I don't know if that's legit.
So what does it mean as Shemaim to Aveda? Okay, fine. We'll get to that later. So signaling the Rebbe's Farbringens always. Yeah, that's the other Indian is Negeya Tzayt Tzeder Sheichem Shivteichem and Tzayt Sheichem Shivteichem Memecha. And what's the Chiddush? Because the guy all the way on top can say from Sheichem Shivteichem. The guy all the way on bottom says Chabish Kin Shayich to them. Zogt menem that say if you're in Shemayim, say if you're in Oret, say if you're in Shemayim, Shemei Shemayim, say if you're in Esek Shemaim Shamata, and say if you're Shir Shoel Hineka, the Eibishter is there. And the Hasdar Pabna Shayches, and you have to do your Avodah. Kol Echad Lefi and Yana. Now, so someone told me a word that he heard that why does it ever bring this dafka in this Mamer, this word, and on the other Mamarim? I wanted to say like this. He said because mainly the other Mamarim where we're trying to get to is Etzema Oyer to L'mayla Adin Ketz. So it makes sense. We start from L'mayla Adin Tachlis to get to L'mayla Adin Ketz. But if L'mayla Adin Ketz is Saivi Sayinish the destination, so wants a taina that so this cheshbon isn't so stark because anyways you have to end up going. So let's skip one of them. Do that flaw of just L'mayla Adin Ketz, just L'mayla Adin Tachlis, or the package of them together. The flaw of Oyer and Oyer then to L'mayla Mir. Over mainly he brings this word that's Negeya Ta'avodah. Fine, that's one Nekudah. I think because if Shlag Nachavard, this would be Negeya to what we're saying weiter. Okay, another Nekudah in Sif in the beginning of the Mamer weiter when he's doing Chazara from the previous Sif, and this is Mamash when it gets all the way till the end where we're speaking about Sif Yud Gimel. So some of you remember last year's Mamer Chav Gimel and Sif Yud Gimel. Where were you? In some 70, or you were in Shlichus? Some Shlichus. Now I'm not the call. You have all the Bachrim to learn. The worm counselors, You're already cooking for a few years. You're still stuck in Tafshach Beis. In Oymei Namor. So, Be'etzim last year in the Mamer Tafshach of Gimel, which was based on Sif Yud Gimel, versteht sich, was very. It was how do you say? It was a shvere Mamer, but it was pretty much about the Mata Adin Tachlis. It was about the Yerida. It wasn't really about how Eirein Tzoyt gefindt sich la Mata Adin Tachlis. It was about the Mata Adin Tachlis. Actually, in this Mamer, this is the way you hear the way the Rebbe is saying it, that the nekuda is that we're trying to say is the inyan for lamata mata. Come sif yudalid, perik yudalid, and here we say, yeah, it says over here. Wie was ist da der lamata mata? Wie gerät für barichas die dargish bezeh darga tachtoina bis noch in diriker bis lamata mata. Sagt auf the roof. Now in perik yudalid mata mechayes kulam. Meaning, what we're bringing previously is, let me show you how low this thing can go. It goes really, really low. And then we'll start sif yudalid. How sif yudalid start? Right? Nevertheless, the atom mechayes kulam. In this mata mata adi tachlis, the Eibishter is there. So in the Mamer last year, he went through this mamash bari, so went darga under darga, the Lord, and the next darga, and then mamash at the end, he gave us a te'ima of Tavshin Chavdal, right? And the Rebbe said, oh, at the end, those mamash in one line. The Rebbe said, nevertheless, dort kufig gefindt sich safe, und der Fahr in was bringt sich es says. In other words, what how does it express itself? Lo yidach imenu nidach. That was like the whole word. Lo yidach imenu nidach. In other words, the hasbara seinian and what's going to happen, and like now we have the Zoysis message. Next year you'll get that, but I'm not going to let you off just saying mata mata and and life sucks. It's the Eretz gefindt sich da, and that expresses itself in the fact of lo yidach imenu nidach. How? Comes Tavshin Chavdal. So the Rebbe sort of gives a te'im on the end of Chav Gimel of Sif Yudal the next year. Here, obviously the Rebbe starts with the Sikkum of before, but here the Rebbe speaks about Sif Yud Gimel, and the Rebbe learns Sif Yud Gimel different and a Sach Nidriker, as we went last year. If you remember the Sif after Sif, he went lower and lower and lower. But the Rebbe learned Sif Yud Gimel. It's not clear in Sif Yud Gimel of the Friedrich Rebbe. If you look in the Sif, it's printed in the Kovitz. And Nachmer, Tavshin Chav Gimel, the Rebbe didn't learn that way. The Rebbe goes to the Klippus. Right there, it goes through the Oilamus, Klippus, and lower than the Klippus. Perich of Dalatanya, that someone that's choyte v'oiver Yitzayim Yisbarech is worse than Sidrachra and Klippa, as the Mamer Yitush Kadmach, right? Because all the behemoths, the chayes, and all those that come from Klippus and represent Klippus, they don't go against the Ratzin the Eibishter. And there's levels in Klippa. There's Klippa that guards the pri, just like the pashtos pshat of Klippa. And then there's Klippa that is mesis or mefate to go against the Tzayni Yisbarach, because it's the Zoyna that's brought in Tanya. It's not called the Zoyna is doing the Ratzin HaMelech. The Melech is trying to tempt the prince in order to megala his Maila and to make a Dirvat Achtoinim, the Cholu. So the Klippa is doing the Ratzin Hashem. A person goes and actually is Oyvar and Tzayni Yisbarach is going Heibech the Ratzin Deibishter. And then it goes Nachtifer. That he's Choyta Pisheya. There's regular Choyta Pisheya, there's a Yon Rishus, there's doing an Aveda of Lumazeh, and then there is that you use Kedusha to go against Ratzin Elyon. And this is like the Mashal and Tanya of the Yehol, the Chman Zan, the Rishi Shal Melech, the Chol. That's how low you can go. So the Rebbe goes to this low darg, and then interesting, the Rebbe says, and the Rebbe learns, that's Shtei Tach in Sif Yud Gimel. What does it say in Sif Yud Gimel? It's for the end of Sif Aleph. In the end of Sif Yud Gimel it says, it brings this vard, and this that Rebbe spoke about Barichis and Chav Gimel, that how low the Chayas Alikis comes, and the Eir Aliki comes, and you have a matziv where people can learn Torah, and you learn Torah, Heibech HaTorah, because the person learns with the Seifel Enoshi, how the Erfar state, he's not bottled to Torah. So the Friedrich Rebbe is not speaking klar about someone that's using Kedusha to go against the Eibish there, and to go Heibech Ratzin Elyon, but the Rebbe says, when you think about those terms, what's going on here, this is, the Rebbe learns from this Nekudah, this Inyan. That's because once we say that a person can use the Koyach HaTorah, a person can use Torah and Paskin Heibech HaTorah, so that's when you have the whole Vart here. You have the Vart of going Heibech Ritzoyni Yisbarach, and even using Torah to go Heibech Ritzoyni Yisbarach. Fine. Now, right here, it's very interesting, because the here, we're already going to Sif Yud Dalid, and Dafkin in Sif Yud Dalid, the Rebbe was like, one second, let's hold on to Sif Yud Gimel, and let's Shlep Esar up. Right? Let's bring it even Nachmer Nidrik. So just the 2 points that we spoke about in the last the Chidushim here, the Oitzer, we go Asach Hecher, right? The oitzer we go asach hecher, and the mata we go asach nidrike. Right? And it makes sense that these two things are connected, right? And taka you see this in Sif Vav, as in the Sif Vav on bottom, the Ois Vav. One second. This is in Ois Vav. In Ois Vav. So these two, there's a few artists here, especially Hey and Vav. This is actually not from Rabbi Yale's. Rabbi Yale didn't write this down. This is based off the Hanachas from the Shabbos Fabring, from the Shabbos Mamer. So you see over here a few lines into the Ois Vav. The line starts Shalosh Shazo Inina Oyer, right? That just like the Eibishter gives his Oitzer, that's higher than any level of Oyer. The same thing in Ar Avoda, even at Tzaddik, has to go higher than the deepest Koiches of his Metzias, which is all in the Gather of Oyer. Then it says, because without that, in other words, the way that I was saying it here is the oitzer and the highest level of oitzer, the oitzer in our koiches nefesh, which is the serious nefesh, and the oitzer lamaila, it's not just an added benefit and an added gift. I'm like, hey, you're going to war here, nadir oitzers. It's for survival. There's no way you're going to be able to get through this war without the bizbuz oitzers. Right? In order because the mata adin tachlis as a nidirik, and some matziv, that Torah itself could go against itself, could be used against itself. After the cause of the Yerid is so low, we need the highest level of oitz. Then comes the Sif, Mamshech Perek Yudalid. So here's interesting, the oitz test, right? It brings that Yudalid is shaykh to the Iliv Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. And then a whole beer here. How is Yudalit Kaima Sira Bashlamusa? The Kaima Sira Bashlamusa is Tesvav. Yudalit, the whole word here that really it's Ib Tashtzag, Kiddush HaChodesh, always our best halachas. And it's the night between 14 and 15. So 14 and 15 are both Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. It's something very interesting. If you remember from last year, when the Rebbe introduces, right after like the first Sif, when the Rebbe introduces the Sif from der Yar, Sif Yud Gimel. How does the Rebbe call the Sif? Yud Gimel b'Gematria Echad. Gematria Echad. Right, and here in Yudalid, what's Yudalid? Yudalid is Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. And there, you saw the word and the kud of there. You saw in the Mamer the kud of the Achtus of the Eibishter. It's in Skala in Mata Adin Tachlis. But in this Mamer, it's not just that the Eibishter is present here in this world. You see a word here of Kaima Sira Bashlamusa. What's Kaima Sira Bashlamusa? Gilu. Especially if the Sichis in Nun Beis, the Kislev Nun Beis, so you have told this and Vayishlach Nun Beis. Right, if you know the Sichis is not what I'm talking about, but the Kudah is, and told us, speaks about the Middle of Rosh Chodesh, the first day, you have the Etzem Achidush, the Etzem Olavana, and then Yudal Tesvav, you have the Shleimus, the Gili of the Olavana. Yudal Tesvav is Shleimus. Gilui, and das sucht man da, because the whole vertebra, the next few sifim in the Mamer is that not only we have Erin Seif in this world, Erin Seif is da begilui. Now, how do we see this gilui of Erin Seif?
I was referring to that shleimus.
The word of shleimus is Kaim Sir Bashlamus, the word of gilui. This are things Mamash here, but Kitzur from the Mamorim of Friday night or Shabbos. I'm not sure exactly what was said, but the way that Rebbe brings in all the places, you see very clear and told us in the Yishlach Nun Beis. Here that I was speaking about the difference of Rosh Chodesh Kislev and Yudalad Kislev. Yeah? So understand what's at stake. Right? So Rosh Chodesh is the Etz, there's a Merdik Mile in Rosh Chodesh, because the Etzem Chidush of the Levana, even though you don't see anything. You don't see anything in the first Rosh Chodesh. But after that is greater than anything else, because the Etzem Mitzias of Levana, after Erev Rosh Chodesh there's no Levana. Whatever that means, no Levana, right? And then there's Yudalad Tesvav, which is a Shleimus and Gilui. And that goes along with what we're going to say here, because that's the word of Yudalid. The word of Yudalid is Gilui. Now, who is their Gilui? So the Gilui, there's few bets on this that brings from Rabbi Sienu, different in Yonim and Gilui, and this betzim goes on in the Oisies of the Mamer. It's betzim from Sif Beis Gimel through Sif Hey, right? Sif Hey, he speaks more from Sivav and on. He speaks about the inyan of that the oyer is not nispol and nishtane and sublime b'pshitosei. But these Sifim he speaks about the inyan of Gilui. And Gilui go for a few different things. The oif that he brings over here in Sif Gimel, Ered Vegin is Havos and Chayos. Okay, forgive me if I go a minute or two over. I just wanted to say the part. So, yep, you guys looked at Sif Gimel, yeah? You heard that I was speaking about the Havos and Chayos. So, Chaldim, very interesting. Havos and Chayos, if you've seen the Mamer and Koimis, on the back of the Koimis, so it's something that's better. The Rebbe comes in it. It's in the Rebbe's Amorim and Sichis. You have this inyan, and it starts in Teira Shalom. If you try to understand what's going on in Teira Shalom, you'll get a bit stuck. The Oisies there are a bit hard. But there's Mechal Sugah of Havos and Chayos, but there's a big chiddush here in this Mamer. And then, as I said before, there's the Nekuda that the Rebbe says. This is brought in the Hanocha. I think the Hanocha is from Leibel Shapiro. The way the Rebbe said on Shabbos that it adds another Nekuda and makes the flow here very, very geschmack. So, this Havos and Chayos, where does it come from? Who's the Mahava? Who's the Mechayah? It could be they could both be the same, or it could be two different Nekudas. Who is Mahava and who's Mechayah? Or how does the Rebbe say in the mind? Is it Atzmos? Is it Eir? Is it Eisius? Is it one darg? Is it two different dargas? Huh? Who's the Ato? That's Dr. Shaila. Who's the Ato?
It's not
Right. So first of all, I want to be magish that point because the way the Hanocha is written, it's a bit misleading. Even though the Hanocha corrects itself a few lines later, because he says that it's
doesn't mean
the Chas Shalom, but the way it's rolled Chatchila is misleading because in fact when you see the and you hear the way the Rebbe says it, the Rebbe doesn't say it's more in a kavanah la'atzmos mamish. The way the Rebbe says it is the smeit men nit nor atzmos is das mechaya, but atzmos is doch right, but rather it's the way atzmos is ichmailim and master and an oirelian. But the Rebbe never says that it's not atzmos, that we don't mean atzmos. The Rebbe says this is nit nor atzmos. In other words, it's not only atzmos without anyone else, quote unquote, involved. It's not just atzmos direct. Atzmos wants Elam Hazeh, creates this world and gives chayas to this world. End of story. No, atzmos is obviously the one behind it. There is no one. It's clear. No one other than atzmos can create this world. That is the simin chafi geras hakodesh. That only the Eibishter, that ein lo yilo b'siba, the way it's brought in many of the Mamer and Sichis, atzmos that is mitziusim atzmos. So it can create a world that's yesh meyayin without a yilo b'siba, a world that senses, that feels itself as a yes, as mitziusim atzmos. So only atzmos is the one doing it. But atzmos does it through the oir. As if mailim in the oir elyin, the oisius, through there. Now, we're speaking here about hishabus or chayis. So here is interesting. Here, there's a chiddush in this context that goes both ways. One chiddush when you get to hishabus, one chiddush that goes when you get to hishabus, one when you get to chayis, and one l'chayr is more you hear in the Motzi Shabbos Mamer. This is the Mamer you hear on the tape, and one is in the Shabbos Mamer. You learn a shtikla sugi is havos and chayos. Right, this havos is the etzem, the etzem havos of the nivra. That's not what the nivra exists. That's some gashmis and nivra. Right, we all know that in order for gashmis to exist, it can't come from any darga, because no darga ruchnis, nothing in the shtalshlos has within it to create gashmis. So havos hagashmi is obviously yeshmi ayin from atzmos. What about the chayos? The chayas in the nivroim, yeah, shayuch be'emuna. Right, reading shayuch be'emuna, perak aleph, perak beis. Shayuch be'emuna. We're speaking here about the koyach, eliki, the dvar havai. What's the oisius? The oisius are in the nivra. What's the oisius? The oisius is not atzmos. The oisius is it's not even safe. It's the oir after the tzimtzum. It's the oir natzilis. It's malchus that tzilis dvar havaya. Right, it's malchus the way it's yered in biyah. It's the oir mugbal. So here we come and say, Take the oisius are nislabish and the bria are mechaya the bria. But it's va'at mechayas kulam, it's atzmus through them. There isn't any, no other koyach, no oir has any ability on its own to do anything. It's all, in other words, it doesn't koyach on its own. What are they? They are expressions. It's the Eibishter, the way he is, the keya, the tzimtzum, and an oir, it's a slabish and a kli, gives chayas to the bria. It's atzmos. That's what the Lashon uses. That's Milam himself through this. That's when they get the chayas. But what about his havos? Where does his havos come from? So, Be'efen Klali, and this is the Pashas Avtzon, the way you can see it in many Mamorim, his havos, right? His havos comes from Atzmos. Hu levadei hu, right? Oyer Ein Sof cannot create a Lamazah. Definitely, Oyer Agvul, Oyer Acharat Tzimtzum can't create. Yes, may I? Only Atzmos. But here we come and say the Ata Mechayes Kulam. What's the Ata? The Ata goes on the Oisius, which means it goes on the Oyer, because there's no Oisius in Atzmos. So Oisius is already the Oyer, and the Oyer itself, the way it goes through different halamis and estates. And the Ata Mechayes Kulam. What does the Frierdiker Rebbe say? Vat mechayes kulam the oyer es oyer eliki harei the beginning of Sif Yudalid nimshach lehava yisulahachis as kol nivroim layin liyesh lahavis as well, even though it's vat mechayes kulam, but we say al tikra mechaye elo mehave, that this havos as well goes through the oyer. The oyer is part of his havos process as well. So the chayus also has within it atzmos, ultimately is atzmos. And this havos is not only atzmos, it's atzmos using oyer. Ultimately, the oyer is what creates as well, is what brings about this havos. So in this havos hanivroim, we have the oyer in soif as well, not only atzmos. Right? So this havos also has oyer, and the chayis also has etzem. What this does is this is what brings about the big chiddush of the Mamer, that b'derech ha'retzich, that where is there gilui? There's gilui in chayis, but in his havos there's no gilui. In his havos we don't sense. A person doesn't sense that he has a source. That's the whole part. It's just matzmus. That's the way ego works. I exist. That's it. There's nothing before. Chayos, I feel I'm alive, and I sense there's something outside. There's something benoised to me than just bones and gashmias. There's some life. There's life here. So first of all, when you get to life, so what's the gilui that exists when you get to chayas? The fact that I sense that I'm alive. I don't know that the chayas is a liki, but I know that I'm alive. Once you know that I'm alive, so you can already go right. But here in the Mamer we say that more. The gilui is not only that you know that you're alive, you sense your chayas, you know that you're a living organism, you're able to actually come to some sort of akara. This chayas is hecher from there. There's a mucker, it comes from somewhere. There's a mucker, there's something liki about it. But then he says, Vaiter, that not only we have Gilui by Chayis, through Chayis we're able to have Gilui by his house as well. Meaning, through Chayis we're able to come to Hakara that we have a Boire, we have a Mahava. Eina Yesh, he says, so you're able to recognize that we do come from somewhere. Right? So, Bechlal, like, why do you have to go through the Chayis to come to this Hakara of his house? I could just come to this Hakara of his house. I just think that I have to have a Makar, I have to go through the Chayis, right? Which is something, Yechkamoid, a Trachning in them. But the word here is that this is negate to this word that also his havos goes through oyer. Because if his havos only came from atzmos, the whole word of atzmos is hella. Why is atzmos the only one that could create gashmias? Because only atzmos that's mitzviyusim atzmosi ela ila b'siba can create something that does not feel its makar. Mitzad atzmos, we shouldn't have any gilui when we get to his havos, and that's taka why. Basically, we see his havos. There is no gilui. I don't sense a source. Chayis, yeah, because Chayis is affiliated with Oyer. Chayis comes from Oyer. Oyer is Gilui. But Atzmos is not the Gilui. Atzmos is Tachlis Hahelim. But we come and say that even this Havos is in Oyer Ein Soif Lamata Adei Tachlis. The Oyer Ein Soif Lamata Adei Tachlis. So the Oyer is connected to his Havos as well. If the Oyer Ein Soif Lamata Adei Tachlis, then it has to come to Gilui, because Oyer is Yoni Gilui. So therefore, it's not enough that the Oyer Ein Soif is Mahavos, and his havos blikvul, like I spoke about in Sif Yud Beis, and the shtickle you deal bigger Sif Yud Beis. That's mahava oil is blikvul. but just creates. But we don't sense it. We don't appreciate. We don't feel it. If it's oir and it's gilui, not just atmos, it's gilui. If it's gilui, we have to have it as well. And because they come together, this havos and the chayos, right? Each one start from atmos and also go through oir. So that connection is that plays itself out that through the gilui of chayos, I'm able to come to gilui in his havos as well. Why lepoil? I need the gilui of chayos to come to the gilui of his havos, so that we can read. But I don't want to keep the oil over here too long. But Pasha's the vart is that there has to be. I'm not running to make that cheshbon, right? People don't just start thinking. Because naturally we search for things that intrigue us, that are questionable. It's not questionable. I'm here. It's not a question. What Chayes does, it creates the question for you. It's the shake. It's like, 1 second. I realize I'm not the beginning, middle, and end. There's Chayes. There's something great. There's Ruchnius in my life. Once a person senses there's Ruchnius in his life, then he starts asking himself the big questions. And that's the verb. Because that's the way that the habos that comes from Avtzon goes through oir, that through sensing and the gilui of the chayes, I start questioning his havos, and I'm able to appreciate, the Eibishter is a mahava eichet. Fine, there's just been a vart beneged to this. Hopefully the scene will come out more barichus, the actual the Mamer, whatever said. Fine. There's a lot of geschmack in Yonim here. And weiter, there's any bachrim that have what to say on the Mamer. Thursday night, there's always this man sugel. Basi Legani, come on Almo Redin, and Moise Zayin, and Levair Zayin. Tzlach Rabbi, yeah?